The house I bought to save my mother. I thought coming home would be the happiest moment of my life. 5 years earlier, when I boarded a one-way flight to Dubai with 2 suitcases and a knot of fear in my stomach, my mother hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "Go," she whispered into my shoulder. "Make something of yourself. I'll be fine." She always said that. Even when my father died and left us with medical bills instead of memories. Even when she worked double shifts at diners so I could finish college. Even when I sent money home and she pretended it was too much. So when I finally bought the house, her house, I imagined her standing on the porch, smiling proudly, telling the neighbors, "My son did this." That image kept me alive through 5 years of loneliness. I had no idea that when I came back, I'd find my mother scrubbing floors in that same house, wearing a maid's uniform, for people who didn't even know my name. The Uber turned onto Maplewood Drive just as the sun dipped low, washing the street in orange light. Suburban quiet. Lawns trimmed short. American flags hanging from porches. I leaned forward, heart pounding. "There," I said. "That one." The driver nodded and pulled over. The house stood at the end of the block, 2 stories, white siding, black shutters. Exactly like the photos the realtor sent me. Except something was off. The front yard was neglected. The rose bushes my mom loved were gone. The porch light flickered like it hadn't been replaced in years. I paid the driver, grabbed my suitcase, and walked up the steps. I knocked. Nothing. I rang the doorbell. Footsteps. Heavy. Confident. The door opened. A woman in her early 40s stared at me like I was a delivery mistake. Designer sweater. Perfect hair. The smell of expensive perfume. "Yes," she said, already annoyed. "I'm looking for my mother," I replied. "Linda Carter." She frowned. "Who are you?" "My name is Daniel Carter," I said. "This is my house."
Before we begin, if you enjoy stories that touch the heart and remind us of life's quiet miracles, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It truly helps our little storytelling family grow.
She laughed. Actually laughed. "That's funny," she said. "Because my husband owns this house." My stomach tightened. "That's not possible." She crossed her arms. "Then you're at the wrong address." Before I could respond, she turned her head and shouted, "Linda. Someone's at the door asking for you." Hearing my mother's name from that woman's mouth felt wrong. Like a violation. Then I heard her voice. "I'm coming." Soft. Tired. Familiar. My chest dropped. She stepped into view, and my world tilted. My mother stood there in worn sneakers, a plain gray uniform, and an apron tied too tightly around her waist. Her hair was pulled back, streaked with gray I didn't remember. Her hands were raw and red. She was holding a cleaning rag. "Mom," I whispered. Her eyes widened. "Danny." Her voice cracked. You're home." The rag slipped from her hand. I dropped my suitcase. "What is this?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Why are you dressed like that?" She looked down at herself, then quickly tried to smile. "I was just helping out." The woman beside her sighed dramatically. "Linda, dinner isn't going to make itself." Something snapped inside me. "Excuse me?" I said sharply. The woman looked me up and down. "Who exactly do you think you are?" "I'm her son," I said. "And I bought this house." My mother reached for my arm. Danny, please. Not here. I stared at her. Not here. Mom, this is your house. The woman scoffed. She works here. The words echoed in my skull. Works. Here. I turned slowly to my mother. Mom. She couldn't look at me. That silence told me everything. Inside, the house didn't feel like home. The furniture was expensive but cold. Family photos on the walls showed people I'd never seen, vacation shots, Christmas cards with smiling strangers. My mom's old armchair was gone. Her framed photo of my dad. Nowhere. She stood near the kitchen doorway like she was afraid to take up space. Mom, I said gently, what's going on? She swallowed hard. I didn't want to tell you. Tell me what? The woman, clearly enjoying this, leaned against the counter. Your mother couldn't afford the property taxes. Or the upkeep. So we made an arrangement. My blood ran cold. What arrangement? She lives here, the woman said, smiling thinly, and works for us. Fair trade. I stared at my mom. Is that true? Tears filled her eyes. I didn't want you to worry. You were working so hard overseas. You never told me you were struggling, I said. She whispered, I didn't want to be a burden. The word hit me like a punch. Burden. The woman rolled her eyes. Look, this is awkward, but if you're done with your reunion, Linda has chores. That was it. I pulled out my phone and opened the property deed, the one with my name on it. The one I stared at whenever I felt alone. This house, I said, holding it up, is legally mine. She barely glanced at it. Anyone can fake paperwork. County records can't, I replied. Nor can wire transfers. Her smile faltered for half a second. Then she hardened. Even if that's true, your mother signed an agreement. I spun to my mom. You signed something? Her shoulders shook. They said I could stay if I worked. I didn't know what else to do. My vision blurred. You let them turn you into a maid? I asked, my voice breaking. She whispered, I'm still here. I'm safe. Safe. Sleeping in someone else's house. Cleaning their messes. Being spoken to like she was invisible. I clenched my fists. Where do you sleep? I asked quietly. She hesitated. Then pointed toward a small door near the garage. The laundry room, she said. There's a cot. I couldn't breathe. I turned back to the woman. Get out. She laughed. You can't be serious. You have 1 hour, I said. Then I call the police, a lawyer, and the county. She stepped closer, eyes blazing. You don't know who you're messing with. I stepped closer too. You don't know who I am, I said. But you're about to find out. Behind me, my mother whispered, please don't fight. I can handle it. I turned to her, tears burning. No, Mom, I said softly. You already paid enough. And as I looked around the house I bought with my sweat and sacrifice, one truth settled deep in my chest. Coming home didn't end the struggle. It exposed the betrayal that started it. The secret she kept to protect me. My mother didn't cry that night. That scared me more than anything else. After the woman stormed upstairs, muttering threats about calling her husband, Mom led me quietly to the back of the house. Past the polished kitchen island. Past the guest bathroom that still smelled like lemon cleaner. Past the living room that looked like a magazine spread instead of a home. She stopped at a narrow door near the garage. "This is where I stay," she said. She opened it. A laundry room. A stacked washer and dryer. Shelves of detergent. A folding table. In the corner, a narrow cot with a thin blanket and one flat pillow. No window. No lamp. Just the hum of the refrigerator bleeding through the wall. I stood there, frozen. "This was temporary," she said quickly, like she needed me to believe it. At first. I dropped onto the cot and covered my face with my hands. For 5 years, I had imagined her waking up to sunlight through wide windows. Making coffee in a quiet kitchen. Sitting on the porch in the evenings, finally resting. Instead, she slept next to bleach and fabric softener. "How long?" I asked, my voice muffled. She hesitated. "Too long." "Almost 2 years," she said softly. My head snapped up. 2 years. She nodded. It wasn't always like this. I looked at her, really looked at her. The lines in her face. The way she carried herself smaller than she used to, like the world had trained her to disappear. "Sit," I said. She sat on the folding chair. Hands folded neatly in her lap. Waiting. Like she was about to be interviewed for a job. I swallowed hard. Start from the beginning. It began 6 months after I left the country. The money I sent at first was more than enough. The house was paid off. Utilities covered. Groceries. Even a little extra for emergencies. "I was proud of you," she said, eyes shining faintly. "I told everyone my son was doing big things. But pride doesn't pay property taxes." She didn't tell me when the first notice came in the mail. Or the second. Or the third. She thought she could manage it herself, pick up extra shifts, cut back on everything else. "I didn't want you worrying from so far away," she said. "You sounded so tired on the phone." My chest tightened. I remembered those calls. Me complaining about long hours. Her telling me to eat better. Sleep more. She sold her car to make one payment. Then came the medical bill. Her knee had been bad for years. One slip at the grocery store, one ER visit, and suddenly she owed more than she could handle. Insurance covered some, but not enough. I was behind, she admitted. But not hopeless. Then the knock came at the door. A man and a woman. Polite smiles. Well dressed. The kind of people who looked like they belonged in that neighborhood. They said they were interested in buying, she said. I told them it wasn't for sale. They came back again. And again. Then they changed tactics. They said they could help me, she whispered. A temporary solution. They would move in. Cover the taxes. Handle maintenance. She could stay, of course. She wouldn't be homeless. All I had to do was help around the house, she said. Just until things got better. My stomach twisted. Did they make you sign something? She nodded. I didn't understand all of it. But they promised it wasn't permanent. It never is, at first. Once they moved in, everything changed. They took the master bedroom. Replaced the locks. Brought in their furniture. Their photos. Their rules. At first, she still had her room. Then the complaints started. She's in the way. She doesn't clean properly. She eats too much. Slowly, Piece by piece, they took the house from her. They said if I didn't help more, I'd have to leave, she said quietly. Why didn't you call me? I asked. She looked at me then, really looked at me. Because you finally sounded happy, she said. And I didn't want to be the reason that stopped. That broke something in me. All those nights I told myself I was sacrificing for her, she had been sacrificing for me at the same time. I thought it would just be for a little while, she continued. Then you'd come home, and I'd surprise you. Everything would be fine. I stood up abruptly and paced the tiny room. They exploited you, I said. This is elder abuse. She flinched at the word. I'm not helpless, she said quickly. I chose this. No, I said firmly. You were cornered. Silence filled the room. From upstairs, I heard laughter. Dishes clinking. The sound of people enjoying the home I bought. My hands curled into fists. What are their names? I asked. She hesitated. Rachel and Mark Whitmore. Whitmore. I repeated it in my head, committing it to memory. Do they know I exist? I asked. She shook her head. I told them you were working overseas. That you weren't coming back. My jaw tightened. Well, I said, that was their first mistake. That night, I insisted she sleep in the guest room. She resisted at first. Worried they'd get angry. Worried she'd cause trouble. I couldn't believe those words came out of her mouth. I locked the door. They can knock all they want, I said. You're not sleeping in that room again. She lay stiffly on the bed, staring at the ceiling like she was waiting for permission to relax. Danny, she said quietly. Yes, Mom. If this causes problems for you. I cut her off. Stop. I sat on the edge of the bed. Took her hands in mine. I didn't come home to visit, I said. I came home to fix this. She nodded, but fear lingered in her eyes. Later, while she slept, I sat in the dark living room and made calls. An attorney friend from college. The county assessor's office. A local police non-emergency line. Every conversation confirmed the same thing. What the Whitmores were doing was illegal. But illegal doesn't mean easy. At 2:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You should leave this alone. This doesn't end well for people like you. I stared at the screen. People like me. I typed back one sentence. You have no idea what you just started. I didn't sleep after that. Because now I understood something I hadn't before. This wasn't just about a house. It was about how easily kindness is mistaken for weakness. How silence gets sold as consent. How my mother's love had been used against her. And in part 3, I would learn the worst truth of all. They didn't act alone. The family friend who sold her silence. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my mother crying. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just soft, broken sobs slipping through the walls like a secret. I was out of bed instantly. She was in the kitchen, standing at the sink, clutching a mug she hadn't drunk from. Her shoulders shook, and when she noticed me, she quickly wiped her face with the sleeve of her sweater, like she'd been caught doing something wrong. I'm sorry, she said immediately. I didn't mean to wake you. That apology cut deeper than any insult. You don't have to apologize for being upset, I said gently. She shook her head. I thought if I held it together long enough, it would all pass. I pulled out a chair and sat her down. Who helped them do this? Her fingers tightened around the mug. I don't want to start trouble, she whispered. Mom, I said, keeping my voice calm, trouble already started. I just need to know where it came from. She stared at the kitchen window for a long moment. Then she said a name. Carol. The word landed like a stone. Carol Whitman. My mom's closest friend for over 20 years. The woman who brought casseroles after my dad died. The one who sat with her at church. The one who hugged me at my college graduation and said, "Your mother raised you right." Carol. I repeated. Are you sure? My mother nodded slowly. She said she was helping. Carol had always been practical. When my father passed, she handled paperwork my mom didn't understand. When I left the country, Carol checked in weekly, sometimes daily. She knew everything, my mother said. My finances. My worries. My fears. Including the taxes. Including the medical bills. Including the fact that my mom was terrified of losing the house I bought for her. She introduced me to Rachel, Mom continued. Said she was a real estate consultant. Said Mark was an investor. The Whitmores. They came highly recommended, my mom said bitterly. By someone I trusted. I closed my eyes. Of course. Carol hadn't just known about the situation, she'd curated it. Did Carol benefit from this? I asked. My mother hesitated. Then nodded. She said she was managing things. Taking a small fee. My hands shook. Carol wasn't just a bystander. She was the bridge. I found Carol's address in my mom's old address book. Same handwriting. Same neat cursive. She lived 10 minutes away. Stay here, I told my mom. Don't answer the door for anyone. She grabbed my hand. Please don't yell. I kissed her forehead. I'll be calm. I wasn't. Carol answered the door wearing a pastel cardigan and a smile that froze the second she saw me. Daniel, she said slowly. You're home. You knew, I said. She sighed. Come in. I didn't move. You knew my mother was being treated like a maid in her own house, I said. And you helped make it happen. Her smile faded. That's not fair. Then explain it, I snapped. She glanced around nervously and lowered her voice. I was trying to protect her. By selling her dignity. Her face hardened. You left her. That stopped me. You left, she repeated. And you sent money, yes, but money isn't presents. She was drowning. So you threw her to sharks. They were supposed to help, Carol said defensively. And they did. She wasn't homeless. My voice dropped. At what cost? Carol folded her arms. She agreed. She agreed because she trusted you. Silence. Then she said the truth. They offered me 10%, she muttered. My stomach flipped. 10% of what? The rent, she said. And eventually the sale. I laughed once, sharp and humorless. You sold my mother for commission. She bristled. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic? I stepped closer. You put an elderly woman into forced labor in her own home. Carol's eyes flashed. You think you're better than everyone because you went overseas and made money? I stared at her, stunned. No, I said quietly. I think I'm better than someone who exploits a widow. Her mouth opened. Closed. "You'll hear from my lawyer," I said. "And from the police." She scoffed. "You don't have proof." I smiled. "I do now." Back at the house, the Whitmores were waiting. Rachel sat on the couch, arms crossed. Mark stood behind her, tall and smug. "You went snooping," Rachel said. "I went confirming," I replied. Mark stepped forward. "You're making this bigger than it needs to be." "You enslaved my mother," I said evenly. Rachel rolled her eyes. "She worked for room and board." My mother appeared in the doorway, pale. "Mom," I said gently, "go back to the room." Rachel smirked. "See? She knows her place." That was the moment. Not when they threatened me. Not when they lied. But when they reduced my mother to less than human. "You have until tonight," I said. "Pack your things." Mark laughed. "Or what?" I pulled out my phone and pressed play. Carol's voice filled the room. "They offered me 10%. Rachel's face drained of color. Mark swore under his breath. "That recording," I said, "is going to the DA." Silence fell heavy and thick. "You don't want to do this," Rachel whispered. I looked at my mother. At her bent shoulders. Her tired eyes. "Yes," I said. "I do." Because now it wasn't just about taking back a house. It was about making sure no one ever thought they could do this again. And in part 4, the truth would explode. In court. In public. And in front of everyone who believed their lies. The day the truth came out. Court doesn't look like the movies. There are no dramatic gasps. No shouting matches. No last-minute confessions that bring everyone to tears. It's quieter than that. Colder. And somehow, that made what happened even more devastating, for them. The Whitmores didn't leave that night. They called my bluff. By morning, their attorney had filed an emergency injunction claiming tenant rights, accusing me of harassment, and painting my mother as a voluntary live-in domestic employee. Reading those words made me physically sick. My mother sat beside me at the kitchen table while my lawyer, James, explained everything in a calm, measured voice. "They're trying to control the narrative," he said. "And they're hoping your mom is too afraid to contradict them." I looked at her. Her hands trembled slightly, but her chin was lifted. "I'll tell the truth," she said. That was the first time I'd heard strength in her voice in years. The hearing was set for 2 weeks later. 2 weeks of tension so thick it felt like the house itself was holding its breath. The Whitmores still lived upstairs. My mother stayed in the guest room. We avoided each other like enemies in a trench war, passing in hallways, exchanging looks filled with quiet hatred. Rachel tried intimidation first. "You're embarrassing your mother," she hissed one evening when I crossed her in the kitchen. Dragging her into court at her age. I stepped closer. "You embarrassed yourself when you treated her like property." Mark tried charm. "We can settle," he said one morning, leaning against the counter like we were old friends. "We'll leave. Just, drop the charges." I smiled without warmth. Too late. Carol tried tears. She called my mother repeatedly, leaving voicemails about forgiveness, about friendship, about not ruining lives. My mother deleted every message. "I already lost years," she said quietly. "I'm not losing my voice too." The courthouse was downtown, gray stone, tall columns, American flags snapping sharply in the wind. My mother clutched my arm as we walked inside. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. I swallowed. I should have come home sooner. She shook her head. You came when it mattered. Inside the courtroom, the Whitmores sat together, polished, confident, whispering to their lawyer. Carol sat behind them, eyes red, dabbing her face with a tissue like she was the victim. James squeezed my shoulder. Let's begin. Rachel testified first. She spoke smoothly, confidently, about agreements, generosity, misunderstandings. She offered to help, Rachel said, gesturing vaguely toward my mother. We never forced her. Then came the contracts. The agreements my mother had signed, written in dense legal language, full of loopholes and intimidation. Rachel smiled as they were entered into evidence. This proves consent, she said. James stood. May I question the witness? The judge nodded. James approached slowly. Mrs. Whitmore, can you tell the court where Linda Carter slept during her employment? Rachel hesitated. She had a room. James raised an eyebrow. Which room? The, guest room. James pulled out a photograph. Is this the guest room? The screen lit up with a photo I had taken, of the laundry room. The cot. The detergent shelves. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Rachel's face tightened. She chose that. James didn't miss a beat. Did she choose to have her bedroom removed? Did she choose to work 7 days a week? Did she choose to have her locks changed? Rachel's voice wavered. I don't recall. James nodded. Of course. Mark took the stand next. He tried confidence, but cracks showed quickly. James played the recording. They offered me 10%. Carol's voice echoed through the courtroom. Mark's head snapped up. That recording, James said calmly, demonstrates collusion. Financial incentive. And exploitation. Mark's lawyer objected. The judge overruled. My mother squeezed my hand so tightly I could feel her pulse. Then it was Carol's turn. She cried. She talked about stress. About trying to help. About being misunderstood. James asked one question. Did you profit from this arrangement? Silence. Yes, Carol whispered. And did Linda Carter ever understand the full legal consequences? Carol broke. No. That was it. That single word unraveled everything. Finally, my mother took the stand. She walked slowly. Carefully. But when she spoke, her voice was clear. I raised my son alone after my husband died, she said. I worked hard. I trusted people I shouldn't have. And I was afraid. The courtroom was silent. I didn't ask for much, she continued. Just to stay in my home. She looked directly at Rachel. They took that from me. There were no objections. No interruptions. Just truth. The judge ruled that afternoon. Illegal occupancy. Elder financial abuse. Fraudulent contracts. Immediate eviction. Rachel sobbed. Mark stared at the floor. Carol didn't look up. The judge turned to my mother. This court recognizes the harm done to you, she said. And your courage. My mother nodded, tears streaming down her face. The Whitmores were given 48 hours to leave. But the real victory wasn't the eviction. It was what happened next. The story spread. Neighbors came forward, stories of intimidation, shady deals, whispered warnings they hadn't spoken up about before. The DA opened a broader investigation. Civil suits followed. And for the first time in years, my mother slept without fear. On the final night before they left, Rachel stood in the doorway with a suitcase. "You ruined us," she spat. I looked at her calmly. "No," I said. "You ruined yourselves." She slammed the door behind her. The house fell quiet. Truly quiet. My mother stood in the living room, looking around like she was seeing it for the first time. "It's mine again," she whispered. I wrapped my arm around her. "Yes," I said. "It is." But the story wasn't over yet. Because something unexpected would happen. Something that would prove that justice isn't just about punishment. Sometimes, it's about healing. Taking back what was ours. The first morning after the Whitmores left, the house felt different. Not quieter, lighter. Sunlight poured through the windows without feeling like it was trespassing. The air didn't carry tension anymore. Even the floors seemed to breathe easier, like they were finally allowed to belong to us again. My mother stood in the doorway of the living room, holding a mug of coffee with both hands. She wore one of her old sweaters, the soft blue one I remembered from my childhood. "I forgot how peaceful mornings could be," she said. I watched her take in the room, slow and careful, like she was afraid it might disappear if she moved too fast. "This is yours," I reminded her gently. "No one's taking it again." She nodded, but I could tell trust didn't return all at once. Trauma doesn't leave quietly. So we started small. The first thing we did was reclaim space. We cleared out every piece of furniture the Whitmores left behind. Donated what we could. Threw out what we couldn't. Each empty corner felt like an exhale. Then we opened the laundry room. My mother stood frozen in the doorway. "I don't want to go in there," she whispered. "That's okay," I said. "We won't." I removed the cot myself. Folded it. Carried it straight to the curb. When the garbage truck crushed it the next morning, my mother cried, not from sadness, but relief. Neighbors started stopping by. At first, hesitant. Apologetic. "We didn't know," one woman said, eyes downcast. "We thought she was, helping out," another admitted. My mother listened politely. Then one day, she said calmly, "I wish someone had asked." That sentence changed everything. The apologies turned into casseroles. Invitations. Check-ins. A retired couple across the street helped replant the garden. My mother's hands trembled as she pressed the first rosebush into the soil. "I thought I'd never do this again," she said. "You get to decide what you do now," I told her. She smiled. Legally, things moved fast. The civil case against the Whitmores settled quietly, money returned, damages paid. Carol lost her real estate license. Charges stuck. But the real justice didn't come from paperwork. It came from watching my mother slowly stop flinching when someone raised their voice. It came from hearing her laugh again, real laughter, not the polite kind. It came from the day she told me, "I slept through the night." One afternoon, I found her sitting on the porch, sunlight warming her face. She said, "I used to think strength meant enduring." I sat beside her. "What do you think it means now?" She considered it. "Knowing when to speak." I nodded. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "For not seeing sooner." She took my hand. "You gave me a house. But you also gave me something else." "What's that?" "Permission," she said. "To matter." My throat tightened. A month later, she made a decision I didn't expect. "I want to work again," she said. I frowned. "Mom, you don't have to." "I know," she said gently. "That's why I want to." She started volunteering at a local community center, helping seniors navigate housing paperwork, warning them about predatory contracts. "They listen to me," she said one evening, eyes bright. "Because I've been there." I realized then that what had happened hadn't broken her. It had forged her into something stronger. On the anniversary of my return, we hosted a small barbecue. Neighbors, friends, laughter drifting through the backyard. My mother stood up, raised her glass. "I want to thank my son," she said. "Not for the house, but for coming home." People applauded. I looked at her, standing tall in her own space, and felt something settle inside me. Peace. That night, after everyone left, we sat in the living room. "You know," she said, smiling, "I finally feel rich." I laughed. "You always were." She shook her head. "No. Now I am." Outside, the porch light glowed steadily, no flicker this time. And for the first time in 5 years, I knew I hadn't just come home to fix something. I had come home to restore what should never have been taken.